Okay, this is the Geometry Calculator Set A worksheet. So let's have a look at the first worksheet, and this is what you should be looking at. Okay, look at the first question. Okay, the first question says find the area of the triangle ABC. Now it is absolutely important that you always read the question. Sometimes you'll see a right angle triangle and you think it's Pythagoras straight away, but this question says work out the area, and you should know that the area of a triangle is half base times height. So the base is 8 and the height is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Half of that is 24 centimeters squared. Do not forget the units. And because it's an area, the unit is centimeters squared. Make sure you register that and you can do it. Question 2. It says find the length of AC. Now, if they haven't labeled it, you do, right? AC is that side there. I'm going to put a cross there. And because it's a right angle triangle, I know I'm going to use Pythagoras. I'm going to draw that arrow coming out. And because that side there is empty, I'm going to do SSAS square, square, add square root. So square the 18.5, square the 11.5, and add them together. I'm going to square root that answer, right? 474.5. Use the square root symbol. The square root goes over the whole thing there, right? Square root that, and you're going to end up with to one decimal place. Once you round it, so see what's on your calculator, write it down, round it, and to one decimal place is 21.8 centimeters, right? So this is not an area or anything like that you're working out, it's just a distance. It's 21.8 centimeters. Make sure you're okay with that. Question 3. Find the length of XY. Give the answer to 3 significant figures this time. So this time it says give your answer to 3 significant figures. If I look at this, draw the arrow coming out, there's a number there, so I'm going to do SSSS. So square, square, subtract square root. Square the 22, square the 15, subtract them, and I'll get a number of 259. Square root the whole thing. Okay, square root the whole lot. And now let's see what we get. When I round it to 3 significant figures, I'm going to get 16.1. Now be careful with that. Take your time, look at it on your calculator, and make sure question 2 and 3, you know when to add and when to take away. Be careful with that. Make sure you're totally okay with it. Question 4. Find the length of MN. So this is another right angle triangle where we have to work out a length. And the length MN that I want to work out is that side there. Now, if I look at it, I have an angle and only one side. So because I don't have two sides and because there's an angle involved, I know I have to use trigonometry. Because it's trigonometry, it's going to be SOHCAHTOA, right? So I'll write that down. Always write that down once you know it's a trigonometry question. And I'm going to label up the sides. Hypotenuse, that's the easiest one. It's opposite the right angle. Opposite, because it's opposite the angle. And once you've done those two, the third one is the adjacent. Because I want to work out this side here, MN, and you could put a little question mark or an X over there. There are two things there. There are two things there, H and 7.2. That there, it's opposite and X, which I want to work out. The adjacent, there's only one thing there. I don't need to work it out, so I'm going to cross that out. I need to find one of the ratios that has O and H in it, and that's going to be SOH. Using SOH, if I want to work out O, so if I cover up O, right, if I cover that up, what that means is I'm going to do sine of the angle times the hypotenuse. Sine of 32, that's the only angle that I have here, times 7.2, which is what the hypotenuse is. So sine of the angle times the hypotenuse. Sine of 32 times 7.2, I'm going to get that, which when I round it to 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3, that's going to be 3.82. 3.82 is my answer. And look at all the units, they're in meters, so 3.82 meters. Make sure you're able to do that, and you can do that yourself. Let's look at question 5. Find the angle PQR. Give the answer to 1 decimal place. It's an angle they want us to find in a right angle triangle. So this is again SOHCAHTOA, but we're going to do it backwards. We're going to work out an angle this time. So you need to be thinking, all right, because it's an angle, it's inverse sine, inverse cos, or inverse tan that I need to use this time. So let's label up the sides. Well, I could put the angle. You could put X in there if you want, but I've just put theta, the Greek letter. Hypotenuse, it's opposite the right angle. Opposite, which is going to be that 12. Adjacent, which is going to be the 15. Now, I have two things there, two things over there. and just 1 over there, so I'm going to cross out the h. That's not necessary. Okay, let's think about this. So opposite over adjacent. Which of the ratios has opposite and adjacent in it? Tan. Okay, because it's tan of the angle that I want to find out, it's the t that I'm going to cover up. And because it's an angle, we talked about it before, and we want to find out straight away, you write inverse tan and opposite over adjacent. Opposite is the 12 and adjacent is 15. So opposite over, the opposite is on the top, the adjacent is below, so 12 over 15. You can enter all that onto your calculator and you'll get that as a result. Round it to 1 decimal place, and the result you'll get is going to be 38.7 degrees. Now you definitely need a calculator for this. You need to be able to do it. Make sure you can do and take your time to do it. Question 6. Find the area of the triangle ABC. Give your answer to 3 significant figures. Now this is not a right angle triangle. We haven't been given the height of this triangle, and we have 2 distances here. You need to be able to spot this, that this is the area of a triangle given 2 sides, yeah, and the angle between them. 2 sides and the angle between them. So if you go to your formula sheet at the front of your exam book, you actually should see that there's a formula, a half AB sine theta, and we have actually done this in class. A and B are the sides on either side of the angle. So I'm going to replace A and B with 8 and 12, and I'm going to replace the angle theta with 52 degrees. So there's what I have. Stick that into your calculator and give your answer to 3 significant figures. This is what you should get, 37.8 centimeters squared. Now remember, it's an area that they've asked us to find, so be very, very careful with the units as you're working them through. Question 7. Find the area of the circle. Give your answer to 1 decimal place. Look at what they've given us here. They've given us, well, let's think about this. The area of a circle is pi r squared. Apple pi is r2. But from the circle, I could see that they've given us the diameter, which is 16. From that, I could work out the radius, which is 8. And I need the radius because the formula is pi r squared, pi times the radius squared. So it's going to be pi times 8 squared. You plug that into your calculator and you will get that number. The question asks for the answer to 1 decimal place, so we'll need to chop it off there. And the answer I'm going to write down is 201.1 centimeters squared. Question 8, find the circumference of the circle. So remember, cherry pie is delicious, right? We have the radius here. Radius is 7. Always write this down. Get into the habit of writing this down. The diameter is 14. So I'm going to use pi times 14, 43.9822971.5. But I'm going to round that to 1 decimal place. So chop it off there. And my answer, be careful with this, this is going to be 44.0. You do need to put the 0.0 in to 1 decimal place. Question 9 and 10, do look at your revision guides, the ones I've given you for this. So I need to find the fraction of the circle that I'm dealing with. In question 9, it says find the area of the sector. So the area of the sector is that fraction of the area of a whole circle. And remember, from up here, we know the area of a circle is pi r squared. So the whole circle is 360 degrees. The part of the circle that we have is 290. So I know the radius is 8. The area of the sector is going to be, what fraction of a whole circle is it? 290 over 360. That's the fraction of the whole circle. Remember, apple pi is r2, so I'm going to have pi times 8 squared. Yeah, because that's the radius squared. Now do think about this. Right, be careful with it. Once you put this into your calculator, you'll get this number. Round it to 3 significant figures. I'm going to chop it off there. Look at the next number along, and my answer is going to be 162 centimeters squared to 3 significant figures. Now please study this and think about this, because if you get one like this, you do need to be able to do the whole thing. Question 10. Find the length of the arc. Give the answer to 1 decimal place. So the length of the arc is this bit here. That's what I want to work out, just this section here of the curved bit. Now how do I do that? Well, for a whole circle, we know cherry pie is delicious. Over here we know that the radius is 9, so the diameter of a whole circle would be 18. For cherry pie is delicious, for circumference it's c equal pi d. And what fraction of a whole circle are we dealing with? Well, we have 42 out of 360 times pi times diameter. Pi times, now the diameter of the circle is 18. Plug that into your calculator and you'll get that result. Round it to 1 decimal place, and it's going to be 6.6 centimeters to 1 decimal place. But make sure you study this and do think about this a great deal. Okay? Question 11. Find the volume of a cone, give the answer to 1 decimal place. Now the volume of a cone is actually given to you in the formula booklet. And look at what you have. The radius of the base is 3, so write that down. The height of the whole thing is 10, so write that down. And you have a formula for the radius, for the volume of a cone on the formula booklet in every exam paper. They actually do give you this. So it's a third pi r squared, pi times the radius squared, 3 squared, times the height. Okay, so if I just write it down here, the volume of a cone is a third pi times radius squared times the height. And that is given to you on the front of your exam paper. So you need to check it out, make sure you can actually see it and recognize it. We want the answers to 1 decimal place, so I'm going to chop it off 1 number after the decimal point, and it's going to stay as 94.2 centimeters cubed. Cubed because it's a volume we're dealing with. Make sure you're familiar with that and you can do it. Find the volume of a hemisphere. Well, this is another formula that is given. The volume of a sphere, right, is given, and that's 4 over 3, 4/3, times pi times radius cubed. Right, so that is given in your formula booklet as well. Now, a sphere is like a football, it's a whole thing. This is a hemisphere, which is half a football. So when we're working out the volume, now if I look here, they've given me the diameter all the way across. So the radius is half of that. The volume of a hemisphere is half a sphere, so I'm going to half it first. And then I'm going to write down this formula times 4/3 times pi times the radius, which we know is 6 cubed. Right, now I could put all that into my calculator. You know how to do that. You plug that into your calculator and you're going to get that as a result. 1 decimal place, so I need to chop it off after the 3. You definitely need to round here, so it's going to be 452.4. 452.4 centimeter cubed to 1 decimal place. Make sure you can do that and you're okay with it. Number 13, 14, and 15 are related to these diagrams here. And this is something that you're very, very, very likely to get in your exam. The question says find LM. So LM is, look for it, find it. This is where it is. So LM is over there. Now before we actually start this, let's see if we can work out what the scale factor is. How much bigger is the bigger one than the smaller one? So I'm going from 4 to 12. I can tell that 12 divided by 4 is 3. So my multiplier, my scale factor is times by 3. So I'm timesing by 3 as I go from the smaller to the larger. So everything is multiplied by 3. Remember, you're not adding, it's what you multiply by. Your multiplier is 3. The lengths are all 3 times bigger. So if I want to work out what LM is, I need to go from 6 to LM. I'm going to times by 3. So 6 times 3 is 18. And that's the length of LM, 18 centimeters. BC, now where is BC? BC is over here. I'm going backwards. I'm going to go from this 21 here across to BC. That means I need to divide. Okay, because I'm going backwards in the opposite direction, I'm going to divide by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Yeah, pretty straightforward there. Make sure you can do it. Make sure you understand that. Now this is the tricky one. Find the area of LMPN. Now that's the bigger one. We need to find the area of the bigger one. I've done a lot of work with you all on this. The area of LMPN, we need to use the area of the smaller one, ABCD. The area scale factor is the length scale factor squared. So 3 squared is 9, and I'm going to do 5 centimeters squared times by 9. I'm not timesing by 3, that's just the length scale factor. I need to times by 3 squared. 3 squared is 9, so 5 times 9 is 45 centimeters squared. And this is one that you should be able to do. You need to be able to know it well and make sure you can do it. Go through this again and make sure you're pretty confident with each of these before you go on to set B.